welcome back to Chin Music, our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. Last week, we did a show basically right before the Pohlads announced they were going to sell. So we talked about a lot of things. We talked about Pohlad legacy, but we really didn't get into the sale because it hadn't occurred yet. And we just, I don't know. I think we should be more forward-thinking on the show. We should have predicted it was going to happen, but we didn't. I was actually surprised. But I want to get into all the permutations of Pohlad ownership. I have very strong views of their tenure. I'm sure Roy and LaVelle do as well. Again, this is Chin Music, our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. The lineup today, Roy Smalley, former Twins All-Star, current Twins broadcaster, LaVelle E. Neal III, Star Tribune baseball guru and columnist. I'm Jim Souhan, also from the Star Tribune. Best way to listen to this show or any show on the network, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We're coming to you from Aquarius Home Services Studios. We also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities and Chew Vision Institute. So let me just throw out a premise, and then I'll let you guys shoot it to pieces if you like. I feel like Carl was a good owner early because he basically hired people who could do their jobs, and he left them alone. They won 2 World Series. Everything was great. I thought Carl was a terrible owner to have when baseball's finances changed because he was willing to strip down and play studio baseball. Carl also told a lot of lies and half-truths that ended up damaging his and his family's reputation in town that made fans think he wanted to either get rid of the team or move the team. And then I thought the Pohlad brothers taking over, while they didn't spend a crazy amount of money, they didn't, their style of management didn't get the fan base excited. I thought they were stable, reasonable owners who did a nice job getting Target Field built and maintaining it. Roy, I'll let you start from there. You can shoot apart anything you disagree that I said, or you can just offer what you think.
No, I think that's a valid assessment. I really do. I was there when Carl first owned the club. I came back to the Twins in '85 after he had bought it in '84, and I watched him hire Andy McPhail and Bob Gebhardt, and as you say, let them do what they wanted to do. They brought in players at some degree of salary cost, but the result of it was, as you say, 2 World Series. They did it again in 90, 91 when they brought in some more key players, and I felt like Carl was an excellent owner. I understand what you mean in the lean years in the 90s. It was unfortunate. That's the tack that he took. I can't argue with it, and I agree with when basically Jim took over. They got Target Field built. He put a lot of their own money into making it extra special, and I think they've been, for this market, I think they've been a stable, stable ownership. We can talk, and we did talk a little bit last week about what the vulnerabilities in the argument are about the fact that they didn't spend enough money, or they don't spend money, or they're too cheap to spend, and we don't have to rehash too much of that. But again, just like trades are hard to make, free agent acquisitions that turn out really, really well when hundreds of millions of dollars are involved is a shot in the dark at best, and maybe not even that good. So I think that they could have spent more money potentially. I think ultimately that's all about, and LaVelle made a great point last week. I mean, the Yankees got a $300 million payroll or whatever. They've had the highest payroll, or one of the top 2 since 2000, and which is the last time they were in a World Series, I think. So I think that Carl was a great owner. Then he wasn't a great owner, and I think Jim has been pretty stable and probably takes a little bit more criticism, a little more venom from the fans that is really warranted.
What do you think, LaVelle?
I can't disagree with anything you said. I think Joe means well. I think some of the shots he's taken is because of stuff that Carl did and has trickled down. He has not helped his own cause. And one thing that's similar to Carl, I think he's meant well, but he's also he's had self-inflicted damage when he uses phrases like right size the payroll. And even if it's true that you got to make business decisions, which that's something fans don't want to hear. And there could have been a different way he could have phrased that. So he has set himself up for criticism. And then it just fuels that whole cheap Pohlad's mantra that the fan base rails upon. So I thought you made a good point on your television interview about the loudest voices are always heard. And it's easier to be angry and upset than it is to be happy. And you've gotten a lot of that angst through the years. I tend to think that good baseball decisions will help teams win. Not necessarily spending more money, but I do think there's a couple years in which the Twins could have pushed a little bit harder. After 2023, they had so much good momentum going, so much goodwill, and they destroyed it by taking a step back. But I will say this, after the announcement, I've talked to some people in town and done some reading. The transition of generational wealth, usually between the first generation and the second generation, is not that difficult, but it gets a lot harder when you go from the second generation to the third. Joe Pohlad has 6 brothers and sisters. He is the only one out of that group that gave a bleep about being hands-on with baseball. And when you get to the point where they're all at a certain age now, they're looking at the portfolio and they want to make adjustments. I was told by a very good businessman in town last week that most of their net worth is tied up in the team. Mm-hmm. And when you have nearly half your net worth in one asset, that is too many eggs in one basket. Over the last year, the Pohlad families tried to change their portfolio. In January, they sold 9 automobile dealerships. I think it's the Carousel Group. They sold all 9 of those. They've done some other restructuring with some other their holdings as well. And this looks like this is the big one. So as much as I thought that the Twins were set up for 20 to 25 more years of Pohlad ownership, the generational split here, I think, has led to a family decision, one that Joe probably was outvoted on. But that's where we are with all this.
That's good stuff. Roy, you work in the world of finance. You know all this stuff. Does that all make sense to you?
Well, that's exactly right. And I will tell you that what we see generationally is very similar in a lot of ways. And there's there's an old adage about the first generation makes the money, the second generation spends it, and the third generation loses it. And I wouldn't put it like that as far as this situation, but the point is still a valid one. I think when it gets a baseball team ownership, when it gets to the third generation, there's not the emotional pull of owning a baseball team because you love baseball, because you really want to be a part of that whole milieu. And I think Carl loved it. Carl loved the notoriety, but he did like baseball. He loved owning the team. Went to Jim and Jim's brothers, but Jim was the managing partner. And I think the emotion for Jim, I don't know how much he loved baseball, not as much as Carl. I feel fairly confident. But I think there was some emotion about how much Carl and Eloise loved the Twins, and I think Jim was carrying on a legacy there, a legacy of his family being a good steward of that game. And I think that was important to him. It gets to the third generation, and I know the family, especially Joe's 2 brothers, Jim's kids. They don't have any interest in baseball. Tommy and Chris, who are Bob's sons, that Joe's brothers, are doing other things successfully, and so it fell to Joe. And I don't know that Joe has the same feeling about carrying on the legacy. I don't believe that Joe, loves the game the way his grandfather did. Right, so. I just think it's not an issue of third generation, in this case, not being capable. I think that in this case, it's just a question of, why. And by the way, I don't blame him for this. Why do I need this aggravation? I'm 40 years old. I got the world by the ass. I got all the money that I and my family and future generations are going to need if I don't mess that up. And why am I suffering the slings and arrows of the outrageous fortunes of the media and the fan base. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, I want to get into the influence of KFAN on this mentality. So let's get into that, and then we'll talk a little postseason baseball, and of course we'll wrap it up with something from either the world of music or pop culture, food, or something else just for fun, because that's what we do in the off season. First, I want to let you know we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio, and we want to thank Aquarius Home Services.
Yes, fall is in full swing, and Old Man Winter will be visiting soon. Scott for Aquarius Home Services. Now is the time to make sure your furnace is ready for the winter ahead. And to help you prepare, Aquarius is offering a furnace peak performance check for just $29. Don't let Old Man Winter catch you by surprise. Schedule your furnace peak performance check today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Thanks also to Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota, or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
And finally, we want you to hear about John Krasinski's experience at True Vision Institute.
Yeah, I'm a brand new man, Jim, this week. If for listeners of the John Krasinski show over the last month or more, I've been telling you all about True Vision Institute in Bloomington. And we've been talking a lot about the help that they gave me in the consultation to figure out how to correct my vision once and for all, and all the process of going through it. Well, finally, last week, I was able to go in and have LASIK surgery at True Vision. And, I've talked to people who have had it before, and they all say how much it changes their lives. I'm like, all right, come on. Can it really be that good? And here I am, less than a week out from surgery. And I'm telling you, it is that good. For the first time since I've been in fourth grade, I don't have glasses or contacts to mess with. I don't have to worry about going in for, every year or two for vision checkups and for new glasses and putting hundreds of dollars into new glasses or new contacts. A contact gets ripped and I got to go replace that. The best thing about it is I wake up in the morning and I'm not fumbling around for my glasses so I can see, check my phone, look over at my wife and see her face. Like I'm seeing 100% clearly. And it happened almost immediately after the surgery. I went in for the surgery last week and I was a little nervous. You had a laser pointed at your eye. It's nerve wracking, but the people at True Vision were so welcoming and calming and comforting, that it really took a lot of the anxiety away for me for the procedure itself. I was in and out in a little over an hour. The procedure itself actually only takes a couple of minutes. They do what they need to do to get your eyes fixed and they get you on your way. My mom gave me a ride home. I spent the night just kind of resting, sleeping. When I woke up the next morning, seeing 100% clearly, could drive to my follow-up appointment, 20/20 vision. Everything was great. And I still am kind of walking around pinching myself right now that I can't believe I don't have glasses or contacts anymore. And Dr. Chu was absolutely phenomenal through the process. I was nervous. He has a very soothing, calming voice. He takes you through it very easily. He puts you at ease. He makes you feel comfortable when you're on the table getting the procedure done. And it just was really helpful for me in just kind of taking away a lot of the nervousness that I had about it. He was so easygoing and was so reassuring, and just talked me through everything. It only took a few minutes to get done. And then I was out the door and on my way. A week later, I feel great. I'm seeing perfectly. I wish I would have done it 10 years ago. Go to truevision.com and set up your consultation tell them the John Krasinski Show sent you. But honestly, I cannot speak highly enough about my experience there and about the results. It's just life-changing stuff.
Of course, John is on here doing commercials because John is a big part of the network. He does the John Krasinski Show on the Timberwolves and the NBA. It's very popular. He also joins with me on the Viking Update Show. We have Jeff Diamond doing his own show on the Vikings, a team he was once the general manager for. John Millay on Preps, Michael Russo and Anthony LaPanta on the Wild, Kevin Gorg on hockey, Bar Down Beauties on hockey. I always forget how many good shows we have. Dawn Mitchell does her talk show on this network, Dawn of Sports. We have Randy Shaver on high school football, John Millay on Preps, and lots of outdoor content, other shows. Check it all out at talknorth.com. Great lineup, and we appreciate everyone who listens. Dawn's show, we've had Paul Allen and Chris Hockey on from KFAN. Hockey has been on my stage as a guest singer. My band is open for him. He's a great guy. I've been friendly with Common Man for years. Paul Allen was gracious enough to come in and spend some time with us, tell us about his story on that show. So I don't have anything particularly against KFAN. I don't want to sound like this is some kind of vendetta. I'll just say when it comes to baseball, KFAN, to me, plays to the audience. They know they have angry sports fans tuning in, and they know that if they rip the Pohlads, they will be very popular. It's not that I would defend the Pohlads to the hilt or say that they have been perfect owners or they couldn't spend more money. But to me, KFAN has taken it and made it a populist oversimplification that probably did lead to the Pohlads wanting to sell, because that's the major voice in town. And what you hear is Pohlad hatred every day. What do you think, LaVelle?
I agree, because the KFAN, a lot of their success is based on bits and sticks. And one of those is, Dan Cole, the Common Man. His 3 hours is just one running bit. I mean, he's brilliant because he barely does any work, and he comes up with a 3-hour show every day.
By the way, that is a feat. Anybody who's done radio by themselves in the studio, it's the hardest thing in media is talking into a mic and nobody else. And with maybe a producer, but really you're just talking into air. It's the hardest thing to do, and he pulls it off. And like you said, he pulls it off without even working hard.
No, he plays golf every day before he goes into the studio. It's amazing. And because you think about it, if you're doing a 3-hour show, that's 3 segments an hour, and it's 9 segments a show, that's 45 segments a week. That's a lot of stuff you got to fill. He figures out a way. But one of his things is anyone who has tried to explain Twins ownership's approach or lack of spending has been called a Pohlad pocket protector. And that catchphrase resonates with his listenership. And it's it ends up walking through other shows on that station, like the morning show, a little bit Dan Burrow. Burrow's pretty much in his own island there, but definitely from noon to 3. So, they've had a huge influence on being a place where if people want to verbally pitchfork the Twins, they easily can do that. And that's probably led to some of the issues that the families had to deal with. And it's funny because KFAN, I think 3 times since I've lived here, have tried to get the Twins to move to that radio station, which I always thought would be really interesting if they ever achieved that. I think the Twins just announced they're going back to CCO, but they had extensive conversations with KFAN about joining that network before they did. So that would have been interesting how they would have approached the Twins if they were finally part of their family of sports teams being broadcasted on that station. But I agree. And KFAN has some of the highest ratings of any sports talk station in the nation. It's just a fact.
Oh yeah, they know what they're doing. They're very good at it. It's just not, to me, it's not always genuine.
Oh no, definitely not genuine. Like I said, a lot of it's a bit, but people run with those bits like they're real things. Like because of my Pedro Martinez vote, which is actually the 25th anniversary is next month.
Oh, what's the party?
No, when I didn't put him on, what'd you say?
Where's the party?
Ain't gonna be no party. I'm gonna write a column about it. I'm gonna try to actually get a hold of Pedro.
You are.
There's some stuff that went on after that no one's ever heard. Terry Wright, I'm sorry we're delving off here, but Terry Wright had a secretary call me and pretend to be this secretary for the president of the Dominican Republic and cursed me out in Spanish for like 30 seconds before I slammed her down the phone. Stuff like that was going on behind the scenes. But Yeah. So anyway, anytime there's a close vote in any other sport, KFAN says I was the one person that didn't vote for Shaq, so he wasn't unanimous for every. And people buy into it, and I get these angry emails from what was your reason for not voting Caitlin Clark for WNBA Rookie of the Year and stuff like that? Because that's the grip that KFAN has on the sports culture in this market.
Roy, weigh in any way you like on all this silliness.
Well, I'm basically not maybe pun intended. I'm not a fan of that medium. I'm just not. And I think LaVelle's dead right on it being a bit. You both are right. I mean, they know what they're doing, and they know who their audience is, and they know how to. I mean, play to it. And why wouldn't you? I mean, that's just really that's good business, and it's knowing your business and how to work it. So I've got nothing to say other than it's not my deal.
Oh man! All right, let's get to some actual. I think we've talked enough about the Pohlads. Let's get some actual baseball. Before the show started, we were all daydreaming about what a Yankee-Dodger World Series might mean. And I'm torn because, of course, I would love to see Cleveland make it. I love it when Midwestern towns, smaller markets make it. But there's just no denying the epicness, to make up a word, of a Dodger-Yankee World Series. Aaron Judge against Shohei Ohtani. Roy, where do you stand on this one?
Well, it's funny because I should, in my whole life in baseball, when I was playing and after, I wanted a team in the World Series that beat my team, right? I mean, that makes the Central Division look great, and it makes my team look, have a little bit more credibility, because hey, the team that came out of our division, it was a great team, and we've got some work to do to catch up to them. But good for them, and I'm pulling for them. Not this time. And for me, this is sacrilege because I never do this. But Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series, I think it's time again. However long it's been, it's over 40 years, I think, or thereabouts. And I just think the whole makeup of the teams. I mean, yeah, Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. I mean, how can that in and of itself is worth it to me? But those two teams are really good. They're really important to baseball when they're whether they're when they're winning or when they're winning, but not all the way over the top, which people also love when the Yankees get beat. I mean, those and the Dodgers too, to some degree. They're so important to the game and the excitement in the game, and this has got to be the pinnacle of their ability to be exciting to the fans. I think with these two guys and these two ball clubs. So I just think I hope it happens. I really do.
LaVelle?
I think Dodgers-Yankees would be a great World Series, no doubt. The last time they met was 1981, I believe. It was Tommy Lasorda against Bob Lemon as adversarial managers. That would be pretty neat. And especially the Ohtani Judge matchups would be awesome. Ohtani versus not matchups, but those two superstars colliding, two of the most prolific offensive players in the game going at it. The 1-2 punch of Judge and Soto would be awesome. But I gotta point out that if the Mets somehow come back and bounce back from the Game 1 loss and win the series, now you got Yankees Mets. All right. There was once, Jim, there was a time where we used to be sent on road trips that didn't involve Twins games in the postseason.
Yes.
And I think I might have been the last one. I covered the 2000 Subway Series between the Yankees and the Mets, and I just saw how nuts that was for that city and how the nation kind of looked on as Mets fans and Yankees fans went at it. That was a series in which Roger Clemens, who knows what he was loaded up on that day, got mad and threw the bat at Mac Piazza after he tapped back to the mound. He broke his bat. The bat came out toward the mound. Clemens picks it up. He's fired up. He's wound up. He throws the bat at Piazza while he's trying to run the first. We're all like, this man's off his rocker, So just being there for all that and the back and forth, Yankees bets would be hilarious. I know it's two teams, same market, but it would capture the nation's attention just as much as Yankees and Dodgers would. So I think either way. Now, once again, I feel bad because I'd like to see Cleveland kind of break through and shock the world. That'd be great. As Roy pointed out, for Middle America, for flyover country, for the Central Division. But I just think the Yankees are the overwhelming favorites to move onto the World Series. So Yankee Mets, Yankee Dodgers, I'll take either one.
And how about this?
I don't know, LaVelle. I don't think that there's the national excitement anywhere close. Yankees, Mets. To me, I'll tell you the way I feel about it. Oh man, I got to watch these two. It's just not what I want to do, and I'm not sure that I'm alone in thinking, the heck with New York. Why are we going to watch New York go crazy? So it's and of course, if the Yankees are in it, I'll be pulling for the Yankees. It's a former team of mine, and they're American League, and I have an affinity for the Yankees for that reason. I will tell you, growing up in LA and being a Dodger fan all my life, it's going to be hard for me just to say, "Yep, Yankees all the way." I mean, I would not be disappointed whoever the best team it turns out to be in those 7 games, if that's the way it is. Then so be it. So I just really hope it's coast to coast. And I really hope we don't have to put up with all the New York BS if it's those two.
Well, I might have been influenced, Roy, by the fact that when I covered the Yankee Mets series, that got me an entire week and a half at the Eastside Marriott on the company dime. So that might have been another reason why I thought it was great.
Yeah, well, that doesn't count. You got to think of us poor baseball fans sitting in our living rooms watching that zaniness and going, "Oh, really? Really? Could have been Yankees Dodgers? Come on."
I love it. And by the way, you're talking about a potential series where we're all going to talk about Judge versus Ohtani, 2 of the 3 best players in the game, if not the 2 best players in the game. The second best players on these teams are Mookie Betts and Juan Soto, almost historic figures. The talent level is off the charts with these 2 teams.
No doubt.
And Freddie Freeman, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame as well. So I mean, it's for the Dodgers. It's a wonderful a wonderful portfolio of talent between that we would see in those games.
Man, all right, great stuff, guys. Good conversation. We'll do our last thought. Now, it can be on anything you want, anything from bourbon to baseball to music to movies, TV. I'll start while you guys think. I'll say this. After traveling to Italy this summer, Roy and I have both been lucky to travel overseas lately, drinking Italian wine, drinking French wine, drinking Austrian wine, I realized I can actually drink wine and not feel terrible the next day. It's an absolute gift. I've never really been a big wine snob, never really been a big wine drinker, but discovering that in other countries, the way they make their wine, I can actually have a glass or 2 and not feel terrible the next day. It is an absolute gift. So that's my pop culture outside baseball thought. Do either of you ready to offer yours?
Yes, I'm going to piggyback on yours, Jim, because I'm thrilled to hear that you have found something that you can consume and not feel it the next day, because this has been like a 3-decade thing for you, trying to find the right thing to consume. Going back to spring trainings when I think you tried beer one year, and I think you tried vodka another year, and I think you tried tequila. I think you were sipping tequila the tequila stage. So the fact that you've found something in your wheelhouse that doesn't rock you the next morning, I'm thrilled for you, man, because I've watched this unfold for nearly 30 years.
Yes.
Okay, my final thought. I've got a music thought, but I'm going to save it. This is such a good spirits conversation. I'm just going to go to my favorite guy, Nate Bargatze, the comedian, who once said, I drink beer. I just like beer, but I think it just gives me a big gut, and someone told me I should drink vodka soda. So I tried vodka soda. That's really good. I drank it like beer and ended up in the street. Well, at least I wasn't bloated.
Drink it like beer.
Very good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Good stuff, gentlemen. It was fun. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great week. Enjoy the baseball.